this video, I'm going to show you how to build the electric skateboard drivetrain from start to finish using the inertial parts. So that's everything from the motor, attaching the motor pulley, belt, aligning the belt, the whole lot. So firstly, we'll just go through the tools that you'll need. We need a few tools, so I'll detail them now. So we've just got a few hex tools or Allen key tools. This is 2.5 mil, this one's 5 mil. We've got a circlip plier here, so we can put the pulley onto the motor shaft. We need that. We also have a 10 mil little spanner here. Skate tool, standard skate tool. We also, as you can see, have a cordless drill here. So the two bits that we'll be using in that is a drill bit. This is a 6 mil drill bit for drilling out the core, the plastic core inside the wheel, which I'll show you. And here we've just got a bit here for driving the 6 bolts into the wheel. Just makes it a bit quicker. So now we'll install the R-spec motor onto the motor plate. So there's a few ways you could actually put this on here, with the wires facing forward and down, forward and up, or backwards and down, or backwards and up. So normally my advice is to grab the truck and just do a quick mock-up and see how it's going to go together. This way you'll know which is the top and the bottom. So you can slide the motor mount onto the hanger, and then you can clearly see which way to install the motor. Now I would recommend having the wires down and out the back and then bending them back around like that to your speed controller. This way there's less pulling, there's less forces on those wires, so there's a lot of slack there. So once you know which way you're going to install it, you can turn it over and go ahead and insert the 4 screws, the stainless steel M4s, using the 2.5 mil hex tool here. Now each of these screws will need thread locker on it. My advice though is to go ahead and put each of them in first. The reason I do this is to make sure it doesn't move around. Once you've got this stuff out on tiny little screws, it can get messy. You don't want to stuff around too much. You just want the hole to be right there, and you just want to whack the screw straight into it. Okay, I've also used the outside screws here. The motor plate and the motor has 2 different spots for the screws to go in, but you'll notice the pulley, the actual diameter of it, once it's on there, is just a bit too close to those inner circle of bolt holes there, so we use the outer one. So with the fourth one here, the last screw, you put a little bit of thread locker on that and go ahead and put that in. Torque it down a little bit. They get a lot of vibration through them, so don't forget the thread locker. Now you can go ahead and put it on all of the other 3 that are there. As you can see, it's a lot easier once you've got them just in there, because the motor doesn't move around, it just stays put. So you go ahead and you put that on all of them. So now it's time to get your circlip pliers, feed one of the little circlips onto the plier if you can. Okay, Now you don't want to put a lot of force on this. This is a little spring. If you force it open, it doesn't spring back. So I'm just holding a tiny amount of tension on it here, and I'm just putting it on top of the shaft, and I'm just massaging it down, slowly increasing the force through my hand until it gets on there. Okay, and then you slide it down into position. I've already got one on there. You can see it's slotted right down there, and it's about level with the motor mounting plate here. It's actually slightly higher, and there's a reason. And that's because when you put the pulley on, it stops the pulley touching the motor mount plate. You don't want that to touch ever. You want it to be close, but not touching. So we'll put the pulley on now. Take the key and put it in the keyway. It basically just sits in, and now the pulley can slide over that. You need to line up the notch in there with the key. Now some people get this around the wrong way, but what you want is the beefy end of the pulley on the outside, and that means the belt is nice and close here. That's where all the forces, the torque is going through the belt into the wheel. So you don't want the belt too far away because it puts extra forces on the bearings in the motor. So make sure when you put your pulley on that you put it on the right way. And that just slots right down like that. And you can see it's close to the motor mount plate, but it is not touching it. It's about 1/2 mil away, and that's due to the circlip that's in there. So there's a set screw here. In fact, you don't even need that, but it does help. It stops vibrations. It just makes it a whole lot more secure. You do need to put thread locker on that, and then in it goes. Now there's one more circlip that needs to go on the end there, and just clip it on, and that gives you a perfect installation of the motor pulley. It can't rotate, it can't go that way, it can't go that way, so it's not going anywhere. Here's the aluminium pulley for the wheel. You've got 6 stainless steel bolts that need to go through there, and you've got the carbon fibre washer that basically holds the bolts on the outside face. So the reason why we have the 6mm drill bit is because the diameter of the bolt is greater than the hole that it has to go in. If you tried to put it in without drilling it, it's not going to go. It's too big. So don't try. Grab your drill, insert the drill bit, and we're going to basically go around and drill out the appropriate hole for the 6 bolts here. Now you'll notice there's a pattern to the way they go in. They need to go in side by side against these spokes. Okay, there's 6 spokes in there, but when you look at this, there's only 3 positions that the bolts are lined up to. So you don't have to drill all of them, just work out which ones based on where these holes are and go ahead and drill it out. It doesn't require a lot of force. The drill bit goes through the plastic. It only takes the tiniest amount off, probably 0.2 of a mil. So go around and drill all them out. Okay. Now, each of these will slot straight in. See that? It's tight though, which is good. You don't want it sloppy. That's why we're using the drill. We could have used a narrower diameter on the bolt, but it would have been slopping around. It's not going to give you a good install. This way, it's perfect. So, keep your thread locker handy. What we're going to do is feed each of the bolts through the washer one at a time and thread them into the pulley, the aluminium pulley. So the best way to do it is one at a time. Get your bolt just through there and make sure the pulley is seated. It's got to be seated perfectly flush with the plastic core on this wheel. Now you can just do this bit by hand if you want, or get your hand tool out, and the first two are the most important. You've got to make sure that's flush. You don't have to torque it too tight either. So now you go an opposite position, feed that through, line up the hole. You can see through there, you just got to line it up, otherwise the bolt's got nowhere to screw into. Okay, that's going in now. This is normally when I swap out to use the drill. This is got some torque settings on it. I always put it on the lowest. You don't need to torque it hard. So that's it. So you can see here the bolts are all the way in and the pulley's seated perfectly flush. This is the kind of thing that needs your attention. So now you've got those two in, you can go ahead and put one drop of thread locker in each of those holes, and then you can go ahead and install the other 4 bolts. Doesn't need to be tight, it just needs to go all the way in. The thread locker holds it in there. The torque's not important. Just to the end. If you over tighten it, you'll just basically squash everything in there and warp it out of shape. So those 4 already have the thread locker in it. You have to take the original 2 out. Doesn't have to come all the way out, just enough, and put the thread locker in each of those and do it back up again. Okay, now you have the aluminium wheel pulley installed on there nice and neatly with your thread locker. So these are where you should be at so far. Okay, you need to get some bearings in this wheel, so let's go ahead and do that. Get the truck out again, get the bearings out, don't forget your bearing spacer. Now, what side was it going on again? This side. So just get that bolt off, get one of those washers off. Now, normally the way I do this is just put a bearing on and just push it in. Make sure it goes all the way in. That one's good. And then bearing, don't forget the spacer. Okay, get them in there. That's good. Now that washer's already in there, it's just stuck Okay, so there's a particular sequence you need to follow here, otherwise the belt doesn't go on and you have some problems. So we're going to slide the motor and motor mount into position, and we're just going to slightly tighten those up. So it's not in its final position, but it's pretty close. The belt goes on, now the wheel goes on. So what we're going to do here is slowly rotate the wheel and push the belt onto it. Okay. Keep rotating it and you'll see naturally where that belt wants to line up. I'm about 1/2 mil off, so not bad. This is where you can do some of your fine adjustments. So go ahead and install the there it is. Install the nut there. Now you don't want to over tighten these. These have a nylon washer in the nut as well. What you're going to do is tighten it down until it just comes in to position against that bearing. Now you can see it's clearly not there at the moment. So just 1/2 a turn. Not far now. Not far. Okay, that feels pretty good. You don't want to squash the bearings in there. It just needs to be tight to a point where there's no rattle. Okay, now keep rotating this wheel. The belt will naturally fall where the flanges of the motor pulley tell it to fall. So it's guided by those. So I'm not bad, I'm about 1/2 mil still. So loosen them up a little bit. This can be a bit fiddly. There we go, that's perfect. That belt is perfectly in line from the motor pulley to the wheel pulley. Now, it's also a good idea to spin the other way and see. Sometimes the belts try to move depending which way the wheel's spinning. So, I'm pretty happy with that. That's about spot on. So, if you're happy with that, you need to go ahead and use your thread locker. So there's only two fixtures here. There's a trick you can do, and that's just mark it. If you don't really want to get a texture mark on your skate truck, get some tape. Normally I just do it by eye. So you can see roughly where it is. We're going to loosen that off. Thread locker on there. And straight back in. Okay. Same at the bottom, turn it over. Okay, now you want to do this pretty quick because this stuff will go off fairly quickly. Okay, that's perfect. Do them up. They can get torqued up pretty pretty good. If you want, you can use your torque setting, still probably on the low setting, and see how it goes. Yeah. Now, everything's pretty much sorted out except the belt tension. So, it's pretty straightforward to tension the belt. You've got 3 nuts here that you can tighten and loosen. Here's a 10mm spanner here. So, at the moment, they're quite loose. Probably the easiest way to do it is tighten one. So let's just tighten the bottom one. Not fully, but just firm. And then you can pivot the motor plate on that bottom nut. And because it's pivoting, it's changing the distance between this pulley and the wheel pulley. And that's how you can control the tension. So you generally pull it reasonably tight without stretching the belt. Okay? This is the sort of level of tension you want there. Hold it in position and tighten the other 2. Okay. You can rotate that around. Now, it's shifted a little bit. Sometimes there's a bit of slop in there. So what we need to do is make about a 1mm adjustment. Okay, that's brought that back. So we just loosened it off and we brought it slightly back because the belt was just a little bit off there. Now, that's your installation complete. Simple as that. For dual motors, obviously do the exact same on the opposite side. Thanks for watching this video. If you've got any questions about what I've shown you today, head over to this website, create a new thread with your question. We'll be there to help you and share the knowledge. Don't forget to subscribe below and head over here. See ya.